Today's warm-up has us looking at a word problem, and we're going to solve that word problem using numbers. So here we are, and the situation that we've been given is that there's a parachutist, clearly already jumped out of the plane, and he's presently, or she is presently, at 130 and 5/6 feet above ground level. That is a he. Is going to descend. Descend means that we're headed down. And he's going to descend 45 and 3/8 feet. And then we've got a few tasks that we need to complete here. Obviously, we don't have enough room here, so we're going to move on to our next page. First thing we're asked to do is to write a subtraction problem to find the new height of the parachutist. So this is clearly the easiest part to do here. I've got 130 and 5/6 minus 45 and 3/8. We're not asked to solve this at this point, but simply write the expression. The next thing that we have to do is to write an addition problem instead of that subtraction problem to find the new height. So we're adding, regardless of what our two integers are, we know that we're going to be adding those two integers together. Or I should say rational numbers at this point. So the first one, we know we're starting at 130 and 5/6. That does not change. And we're adding to it the next distance of 45 feet and 3/8. But this time, the distance is not positive, but negative because it's descending or going down. So the expression that we would write here, which is equivalent to the first that we wrote, would be 135 and 5/6 plus negative 45 and 3/8. The last task that we have is to use one of those expressions to find the height of the parachutist. So here's our two expressions. There's my subtraction problem. Here's my addition problem. Now, don't forget, when we add and we've got signs that are different, we know we're going to be finding the absolute value of both of those. So that would be 130 and 5/6. The absolute value of negative 45 and 3/8 would be 45 and 3/8. And then we know the signs are different. Find the difference. So I'm going to be subtracting, and look at that. These are exactly the same at this point. So now, the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at these fractions. I'm going to use that nice chart that I'm now familiar with. I love eating apples and avocados. And right now I'm just going to look at those fractions. So usually I would make these into improper fractions, but with 130 and 45, those are rather large numbers. So at this point I'm actually just going to take my fractions over here and see if it's possible to subtract them the way that they are right now. Because we're not sure. We don't want to go into a negative at this point because that'll just confuse us. So the first thing I need to do is find the LCM, or least common multiple, of 6 and 8. That, of course, is 24. And this is where we're going to make that decision as to whether or not we can subtract at this point, or if we're going to actually have to use those whole numbers from the original problem. So how do I get from 6 to 24? Well, that, of course, is times 4. And whatever I do at the bottom, I do at the top. So 5 times 4 is 20. And I've got getting from 8 to 24. I know that's times 3. So whatever I do at the bottom, do to the top. 3 times, I don't know where I got that 7 from. I apologize to you. That should be a 3, not a 7. I knew something didn't look quite right. Those are 3's there. So 3 times 3 is 9. And now when I see this, I've got 20 minus 9. That doesn't take us into the negatives. It's very simple, straightforward subtraction problem. 20 minus 9 is 11. And of course now I've got the denominator and the numerator is 11/24. So I still have the rest of this. I was able to subtract the fractions, and now I can simply subtract those whole numbers. So if I've got 130 minus 45, well, I know some of us are inclined to want to take out a calculator or have to, use another piece of paper, but let's think about this. 30 minus 40 is 90. I've got 5 more to take away, or 5 less than 90 gives me 85. So if I take both of those, put everything together, my answer is going to be 85 and 11/24 feet.